I recently came across somebody who was asking about writing older characters, or specifically mentally ill older men, because they didn't want them to sound like a teenage girl. Yes, if anyone knows, yes, it's from the Bird app. But from my personal experiences, honestly, I think part of mental illness is just like feeling like your mental clock of yourself is like something that's broken and stuck. Like the clock of the hand, they don't move. Sometimes they don't. They'll just disguise themselves as never trying to ask for much or trying to act independent or not asking for help. Like they try not to need others and they're alone. That really depends. Some people try to act tough, at least physically, like they don't have anything to hide, even though it's probably something they don't want to talk about. I'd probably say it's like touching a wound that hasn't really properly healed. If you touch it, they might lash out like some kind of wild animal. Don't trust others, or let's say they're not entirely cold and they're actually pretty friendly, but they keep other people at a distance. They might tell you a bunch of fun facts about themselves, but then they definitely won't tell you the deeper stuff. But yeah, it's probably some type of memory or some type of pain that they don't want to remember. I could make up an example. Maybe they don't want to feel weak or pitiful. Oh, of course I don't want to be seen as broken or something like that. They could be really nice to somebody, but not very gracious to themselves. It might fall into internalized ableism. Might fall back on certain emotions because it's easier to act that way. Like they might never cry. They might focus on trying to just seem angry a lot. Rather than explicitly crying, they'll just be mad, or they'll just try to smile or laugh a lot rather than try to explicitly cry. Because they think, oh, if enough time passes, I'll be okay, right? Maybe if they keep moving forward, they'll keep smiling and everything will be fine. They might be passive and have no sense of identity. They might seem really defiant to you, but when it comes to certain people, kind of bend over or collapse, as if, for example, if your mom yelled at you and you felt like you went back to being a child, they'll make other people make decisions for them or go off on their own. Or they'll have some strange beliefs, like for example, oh, loneliness is an inevitable thing. There's something that is part of their pain that might be inherent to them that they don't want to change. Like, let's say, for example, this person sees themselves as broken and somebody sees them as broken, and some people try to fix them rather than accept them for who they are. Then they might be scared of healing because they'll think, oh, if I heal, I'm gonna have to change inherently who I am. It's like that fear of letting go, or they dislike change, things like that. One thing you could do is definitely give that person that things that seem very contradictory, like being two things at the same time, because you notice some people like to put things in categories, and people aren't just one thing. They're many things that might not even make sense. Or for example, sometimes they have no idea how to explain something that to them inexplicably happened. So they will make up some kind of explanation that somehow makes sense to them at that time and keep it there. For example, somebody might think because somebody treats them cruelly, or a bunch of people treat them cruelly, that they deserved it because maybe they were born to be hated, or that they were inherently made to, they're weak no matter what they do. Something that cages their mind, or they're just completely numb and completely desensitized. Like a bunch of bad things could happen. They're just like, oh, it's normal, it's just another day. Every day is the same, it doesn't really matter. Something like that. So even if that person doesn't come off like a child, their inner world could be wildly different. Sometimes what people see definitely is not something that they would get. I wouldn't say this is medical advice, this is more like writing advice and a way to write your characters, because it highly depends on that individual. So you're gonna have to think of the character like you're gonna give them a lot of sense of realism. Thing is, like, I try not to think of it as something too gendered when it comes to the character. But yeah, if I were to write a mentally ill character, I'd probably base it off of a lot of things like that. You could probably base it off your own experiences. For example, there are characters that you relate to. Maybe they are the opposite gender of you, and therefore there is definitely something that you relate to just because of that, right? Have something similar to you that you wouldn't really think of. Anyway, thank you for watching. I had to make this video while struggling not to cough because I got sick. That's why I hadn't made videos in a while. Every time I get sick, it always affects my throat, the first thing. Anyway, I have to go. Thank you for watching.